On December 2nd, 2023, I bought something on Amazon. That is the last time that I have bought something, and right now it is February 23rd, so 83 days after. I committed to an experiment where I would not purchase anything for 365 days. On this spending fast, there were basically only 3 things that I could buy. The first is groceries and household-related essentials. I'm also allowing myself to buy anything health-related. And then the third point is I'm still allowed to buy pretty much anything I want as long as it is a gift for others and not myself. And so far, this experience has been nothing short of life-changing. And I hope to inspire you to do something similar to what I'm doing, or at the very least, be more conscious about what you're buying. So in this video, I'm going to share the 9 science-based costs of buying items. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to share my gum strategy for buying things that actually meaningfully make your life better and not worse. The first and most obvious cost is money. And since we moved to this no spend fast, our spending has actually gone down by 30%. So while money is the most obvious cost of buying things, I don't think it's the most significant. What I've realized over these last couple months is that the biggest cost of buying things is actually time. One way that things cost time is the money that they're required to get them. So if you have to go to work for 1 hour in order to earn $20, anything you buy for $20 is essentially trading 1 hour of your life for that item. But there's also other things involved that cost time. I think there are basically 4 deadly R's that I call them associated with buying stuff. The first deadly R is research. Anytime I want to buy something, I inevitably get online and look at reviews and look at other people, what they think about the item, and try to maximize my purchase. I'm trying to get the most value for the money that I'm spending. The second deadly R related to the time suck of buying things is returning things. There's probably very few more miserable experiences in our modern day first world life than returning things to the UPS store for Amazon or other purchases. I absolutely loathe standing in line behind 10 people that are also returning all their junk that they didn't want just to wait for a disgruntled employee that absolutely does not want to be there to return all the things that I should not have bought in the first place. And anytime you buy something, you typically have to restore that item and repair that item. And I'm including things like cleaning and restoring. So let's say that you were to get an item, and let's say the item was actually free. Every week, this item required that you spend at least 1 hour cleaning, repairing, or otherwise tidying it up. Let's say you value your time at $100 per hour. Well, if this particular item takes up 1 hour per week, over the course of 52 weeks, this item is going to cost you 52 hours. And at $100 an hour, that adds up to a staggering $5,200 cost per year. Research shows that if the average American household would just get rid of all the clutter in their house, their household chores would go down by 40%. And the final deadly R, time-sucking things, is the refinding. Research suggests that Americans at least spend between 5 and 20 minutes per day looking for things that they have lost. That adds up to about 121 hours per year. And if again we assume that you value your time at $100 per hour, that means that just looking for things is costing you the equivalent of $12,100. And the less clutter that you have, the less stuff that you have to keep track of, the easier you're going to be able to find everything. The third cost of stuff is the physical clutter that it creates. Studies show that 1 in 7 Americans has an entire room in their house that they're not able to use because it's full of so much stuff. And the average home in the United States has 2 times the square foot per person today than it did in the 1950s, and yet 3 out of 4 Americans cannot get the number of cars in their garage that they're supposed to get. And all of this stuff has a significant cost on our brains. One study found that the more objects that you have in your field of view, the more your brain subconsciously has to filter those items out. And that's taking up resources that your brain could otherwise be putting to more useful tasks. And the fifth hidden cost of stuff is stress. And research backs this up. If you have a cluttered environment, you typically will have higher cortisol levels. And cortisol is the stress hormone. And the more of this hormone you have in your body, the greater links that you're going to have with things like anxiety, depression, digestive health problems, muscle pain, less sleep quality, cognitive impairment, and weight gain. And speaking of weight gain, having too much stuff and a bunch of clutter around your house can have significant impacts on your health. I've lost a few pounds myself in 2024, and some of this may be because I've had less clutter. One researcher put people in a room, either a cluttered room or a nice and tidy room, and then gave them a choice between an apple and a chocolate bar. The people that were in the cluttered environment chose the chocolate bar 2 times more than the apple, compared with the group that was in the tidy room. And number 7, stuff costs you life satisfaction. Well, research suggests that experiences are far more valuable and far more contributing to happiness than material possessions. The more material possessions someone has, the greater chance they're going to be dissatisfied with their life. At number 8, having lots of stuff will cost you generosity. But the less stuff that you have, the more generous you're going to become. A friend of mine at work wanted to get one of those Ember temperature-controlled coffee mugs. He didn't win it in the Christmas party prize drawing that we had at work. And so I thought, you know what, I'll just buy that for him. So I bought that for him. I bought my wife a cup, or one of those, what are they called, Stanley cups. Hers was falling apart. And so I thought, you know what, I'll buy her a Stanley cup. And so that meant a lot to her. It's a lot of fun when you're able to buy something for someone that they didn't expect. It makes them happy. It also makes you happy. It helps you think about yourself in a more positive light and focus your attention outwards on other people instead of on yourself. And the last cost of buying stuff is obviously the environment. And 60% of the pollution is caused by consumer goods and services. So by reducing the amount of things that you buy, you're reducing your impact on the environment. So what are those items that really move the needle as far as your life happiness? What should you consider if you're thinking about buying something new? I believe there are basically 3 marks of a good purchase, and I've summed them up with the acronym GUM. So if an item has the ability to check all 3 of these boxes, it is very likely to be a good purchase. G stands for goals. So does this purchase or this existing item, if you already have it, make it easier to achieve your goals? And while I haven't been buying things this year, there have actually been a couple of really cool things that have happened. A company called Yeesol reached out with a fitness bike, and they offered to send it to me in exchange for a review. And so I did get a new bike, even though I didn't actually buy it. But what I noticed is that getting this bike is helping me move forward towards 2 goals that I have. The first is better health. Biking happens to be one of the lowest impact on your joints. And so this allows me to still get some cardio exercise without putting a ton of pressure on my ankle and my other joints. The other goal that I have that this bike has helped push me forward towards is to write another book in 2024. I wrote a book back in 2015 that has become a very popular book on dividend investing, but I've always wanted to write another one. So it's kind of been on the back of my mind. Writing a book is something that typically you're only able to do while you're sitting at a desk. But the nice thing about a stationary bike like the Yeesol bike, I can actually put my computer or iPad or this little Alpha Smart keyboard that I have, I can put that there at the bike, and I can work on my book, or I can do stock research. I actually looked into a company for work. I'm an investment analyst full-time. And so I was doing stock research for this company while riding my stationary bike. So you just connect it to your iPhone or your iPad, and then whatever you're watching, so if you're watching YouTube videos, or maybe you're doing some research, or maybe you're doing whatever, you can stream that directly to the Yeesol bike kind of TV screen or monitor, whatever you call it. If you're interested in the bike, I'll put a link in the description down below. If you use my code, you will get $100 off. So you can get this bike, which includes the TV and all the cables, mailed to your house for $400. So in this case, if I had purchased the Yeasel bike or was considering purchasing it, that would certainly help me achieve both my health and my professional goals in 2024. The next factor, U, stands for unique. So do you already have something similar to the item that you have or are considering buying? So for example, I recently purchased a Mac Studio, and I thought having a really nice desktop, super fast M2 Ultra top of the line chip would really meaningfully help my workflow, but as it turns out, it really didn't help all that much. Obviously, it's nice to have a little bit of a faster computer, but I already had a nice M1 Max MacBook Pro laptop, so having the same functionality really didn't move the needle much for me. So in that case, that wasn't unique enough. But going back to the indoor bike, that is definitely unique, at least for us. We have no other indoor equipment. We both have bikes, but in the Indiana winters where you get a lot of snowfall, you can only really bike for 7 or 8 months out of the year. So in the wintertime, there's really not much you can do outside. So having this fitness bike has actually allowed us to stay at home, get a workout in without having to drive to the gym. If we only have 30 minutes, we can still get a nice workout in before the kids get up, before we have to go to work. So in that case, it is definitely unique, whereas the Mac Studio in my example was not. And the last part of GUM is M, standing for motivation. And this is what motivated you to consider buying the item in the first place. What I've realized in not buying things for 83 days is that I've kind of shut off the part of my brain that is looking for new things. And there are a lot of external forces that are trying to get all of us to buy something new. So a big question is whether the motivation to buy the item came from one of those external sources or whether it came from an internal need that you had. So the shopping list, these are the internally generated things that you know that you need. The shopping aisle is just browsing around, seeing what kinds of things there are to buy. And by just eliminating the exposure that I have, all I'm left with is the internal motivation to buy something, and that only comes from a legitimate need. So next time you are considering buying something, make sure it has these 3 things. 1, it aligns with your goals. 2, it has a unique purpose that only that item can do. And 3, that it is from internal rather than external motivation. So what do you think about this? Is this something that you would consider doing? Do you want to join me on my quest to not buy anything for 365 days? Let me know in the comment section what you think. Thanks again to Yeasel for sending out the bike for me to try. If you're interested, you can check out the link in the description down below. And if you're interested in more investment related content, you can check out my Patreon page. I'll also put a link to that in the description down below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.